Hello and welcome to another Scottish mountain walking video. The weather here in Scotland has been pretty poor recently, making walking either difficult or dangerous, depending where you go. So I waited for the weather to improve, and for today's walk I travelled to Glen, Spean to climb Beinn Teallach and Beinn Chaorainn. The total distance for this walk is 16.8 kilometres with 1183 metres of ascent. It is expected to take around 6.5 hours to walk. The starting lay-by is around 2 hours and 40 minutes drive from both Glasgow and Edinburgh, and it can only fit 4 cars. There is a second lay-by to the east around 300 metres away that can fit another 7 cars. Currently my van is back at the Citroën franchise dealer with the same issue as before. I will still record walks, but until the van is fixed my uploads will be less frequent. Starting from the small parking lay-by, head easterly through the gates and follow the forestry track. It's a good gravel 4x4 road and it rises uphill slightly, but for the most part it's fairly level. You'll come to this bit here, it shows a path going straight ahead, but that's overgrown now. There's a bit of a turning circle here. You want to just keep following the gravel road as it bends to the right. Then you'll come to this first junction in the road and you bend to the left. All of these trees have been felled, so it's open on this side. There's a little bit of woodland to the south. Keep following the path, it descends down a little bit here, gets a little bit wetter at this point, and then you'll follow it through the grassy field and it'll go through a gap in a fence. After you go through that gap, follow the path that goes off to the right. It's a fairly well defined path and easy enough to follow. A bit wet and spongy at this point. Once you get up a little bit higher, it's not too bad at all. I think the path zigzags a little bit more than what I've shown on the map as you make your way up. You'll see a little top around about here, and then you're going to bend to the left a little bit. There's a deer fence going across here, it's not shown on the map, and there's a stile, quite a high stile, so you have to cross it at the right point, which is around about here. The path all the way up to here is visible, so you shouldn't have too much difficulty following it. A little bit steepy here, so it goes a little bit to the left and then it bends back to the right, and you go up the ridgeline. On this walk, the snow was at about 700 metres, so from here up there was no path to follow. Fortunately, a couple of walkers had left slightly earlier than me, so I could follow their footsteps. But you do have to keep an eye on your map and your GPS and just make sure you're not following them if they're going the wrong way. You continue up, and it's not too steep a climb, it's not difficult, and nothing exposed. So you come up to this first top, reasonable sized cairn at this point, so you know exactly where you are. Once you get to that, you do want to turn almost 90 degrees to your left. When I was there in the video, you'll see it was cloudy. There's not a lot of features for you to navigate, so you need to use your map and your compass. There are steep drops on the eastern side here, so just be careful of that, especially if there's snow. There was a little bit of cornicing, so you want to keep away from the edge. Head directly north, and then this is the summit right here. I've just changed over to the more detailed map. The basic version didn't actually show you the summit point. So here's the summit of Beinn Chaorainn. From there, you're going to bend slightly to your left and just follow along the ridgeline. On a clear day, this will be very obvious. You'll come down to a little Beinn Teallach and then start bending a little bit to the right. You may be tempted to cut the corner here, but there's some quite steep drops here, even though the map doesn't really show it being steep, not compared to the eastern side. The safest thing to do is just to go up the ridgeline and go over the top. You'll see a little cairn, little small cairn somewhere around here. You want to go a little bit further on along the ridgeline, then descend down a broad ridge. You will see this one going off to your right. You want to avoid that descent and then start bending around to your left. You're aiming to get to the top of this broad Beinn Teallach up here to the north. If you cut down too soon, you could descend further down than you'd want to, and it's very steep and craggy on the opposite side. It's also fairly steep cutting even down across this side here. The safest option is to take a wide berth and stay to the right and then eventually curve round and then descend down this slope. And this slope isn't bad to descend down. The path is not clear by any means, but you're aiming for the middle of this broad Beinn Teallach, and it's really about the highest point. It starts to drop off at this side and it drops off down here. Then you've got a gentle incline up to the opposite side, and once you get onto this ridge there is a path going up here and it is quite clear, especially around this point. And this path up here is easy to navigate and easy to climb up. It gets a little bit vague from time to time as you're getting slightly higher up, but you're just going up the main ridgeline and there's no difficulties going up this ascent. Continue making your way up. There's a false summit at this point. You'll come up and then dip down a little bit and then come up the other side here, Beinn Teallach. From there you're going to turn another 90 degrees to your left and come down here, and as long as you're going down this long ridge, you can't really go too far wrong. Again, it was in snow, so it was difficult to follow any sort of a path. You just continue to make your way down. You're pretty much going south. When you get to that point there at 780 metres, you then start bending a little bit more to your left. This section is from here down and you can see the symbols. It's very wet, very boggy, not a very nice walk at all, this section. Everything else is good. The ascent path is good, the ascent up to the second summit is good, but this descent down here, very wet. You make your way down, you're aiming for, there's this ATV track here and it goes through a gate right at this point. You're aiming for that gate. Once you get through the gate, you're going to follow the ATV track. It's even wetter. It's just really, really bad. Just make your way down there as quickly as you can. There's no point trying to work your way around the wet sections. They don't actually sink down that deep, but just make your way through there quickly. Follow that down along the side of the woods here, coming down close to the river, and then you're going to cross over the river at this point here and then up onto the other side, up onto the bank. There's a path here that you follow, brings you back to the gap in the fence that you went through, and from there it's simply retracing your steps through the woodland, turning to your right at this junction and following that all the way back to the car. Good morning, just after 8 AM. Let's start the walk for Beinn and Beinn Teallach. Temperature is -1 degrees. This parking way by, you can fit about 4 cars. Not allowed to park beyond the gate there. You're going to head northwest down through the woodland here for the start of the walk. I think previously there was a path going straight ahead there. It's shown in some maps. But we need to just follow the road as it bends round to the right. A little bit further ahead there's going to be a junction, and at that point we go off to the left. Nice easy start to the walk today. Pretty much level path. Very slight uphill coming up. Now we come to a junction. We want to turn to the left. You come through the gap in the fence and immediately follow this track on the right hand side. And just follow this up the mountain. Just after coming through that gap in the fence and going to the right, the path splits again. This one being the descent path on the left and the ascent path on the right. You can actually see the scar going up the mountain there. So it starts off quite easy to follow. I'm going to go all the way up to the top there, then round, down in the middle, back up to that white cap, and then descend back down. Looks like the ATV track finishes here at about 460 metres. Car park is at 270 metres, so you've not really done that much. So far, nice clear path to follow. Getting closer to the snow line, just keep following this path straight up there. The small pointy top directly ahead is Stod Beinn, and then you can see the grey corries. Not very grey today. Just going across the stile, you can see the path's fairly clear on the other side. Goes up into the snow. You can see two more walkers up ahead. So far it's been easy enough, not been too steep, a little bit wet but not terrible. Definitely want to have waterproof boots. Your feet would get very cold on a day like today if they're wet. Just coming into the snow line, very light at the moment. It's 740 metres, a little under 300 metres to go to the summit. Just under 2 hours of walking so far. Sun's coming out a little bit. I think that might be the summit of Beinn Teallach. Just poking out on the ridge there. I'm about 940 metres, so above the summit of Beinn Teallach over there. In the snow you can't really follow the path. On this one it's really quite simple, just to keep ascending. There's no difficulties on the way up to this first top. The first top is not the Munro, it's about 4 metres below the actual summit, which is further along a nice ridge walk. I'm just following the footprints of the people in front. It's slightly easier to walk in their footsteps. I've made it to the first little top. This is not the summit of the Munro, and you want to be careful at this point. You go a 90-degree turn to your left, so don't just keep going straight on, but turn to your left, follow the ridge line along here. After turning to your left, we're going to drop down about 20 metres to the Beinn Teallach and then climb up the other side. The actual summit's only a couple of metres higher up than this top here. At the summit of Chaorainn, wind's picked up a little bit. The wind speed's about 10 miles per hour. Temperature feels like -5 degrees according to the forecast. From the summit you head slightly left north-northwest. Descend a little bit. We're going to continue along the ridgeline. Eventually it bends off more to the left. Yeah, not that you can see very much, but we're going straight ahead. The ridgeline actually bends slightly to the right before bending back to the left and down to the big Beallach. We're at the bottom of a little Beallach here. We're right on the path. Follow it straight ahead. From where we've been coming, we are bending slightly round to the right and rising up about 20 metres as we go up along the ridge here. And then it'll drop off, and at that point we'll bend down to the left. And there's Beinn Teallach over there. Go a little bit further north before we can descend down to come up that ridge over there. Definitely don't want to get too close to the edge here. I can see I'm standing in a clump of grass, but I'm not going any further. When you see that little cairn, you've still got another 250 metres along this ridgeline before you bend down to the left. You don't want to go too soon because you'll miss the Beallach over there. There's a big valley. You need to go far enough north before you turn left to go up the other side. So when you come to this point, you see the path starting to descend down there to the right. It's not the way I want to go. I mean, you can go all the way across there and there's more Munros, but I want to bend to the left now and start heading in this sort of direction. There's not much in the way of features. There's a lump there, you want to keep to the left of that. You can see Beinn Teallach over there. Heading to the edge here so we can see down and hopefully be able to pick out where the top of the Beallach is. It's nice and clear now, so that shouldn't be difficult. A nice view across to the Ascent and the grey corries. I'm fairly sure Ben Nevis just poking out over there. So I'm going to cross the Beallach somewhere around there where it's really peaty and boggy, the sort of flattest section. But to get there, I want to go straight ahead, maybe very slightly to the left side of this flat ridge descent. I do not want to go straight down there. So I'm going to go straight ahead and then curve round and over that peat bog. I've just checked the route on the GPS. Now I'm starting to come down a little bit more to the left. I'm going to head straight ahead. There's a big boulder. So that one just there. I'm going to aim for that and then I'll double check where my position is At some point we need to bend more to the left, just trying to avoid descending to the left too soon, because then you'll descend down too low and you don't want to go up that cliff face. You want to come up the back and round to the right and then bend back round to the left, and it's a fairly gradual rise all the way up. You can see it from here. I've checked the GPS and bang on the path, so heading for that rock is a good idea. According to the GPS, I'm slightly to the left of the path. It's a little bit over there. I'm going to head down to that high ground right in the middle of the bog. I think I can cross over at that point, and from there just make my way up. Not quite to the lock in there, but onto that, just that edge, and that makes its way all the way up. It's like a straight line all the way to the summit. I'll have some lunch when I get down there. The wind's died down, it's a little bit warmer. Wasn't the right place to have lunch at the top, too cold. I mean, it's really difficult to tell, but I'm actually on the path. I've checked the GPS. You can see there's faint wear, and it's going down straight ahead, so slightly to the left of where I was originally aiming for. So I'll follow this. We're going to go through a boggy section there, but you can kind of see where there might be paths going through it, and then just straight on through and up the other side. So heading for that white rock. Yeah, heading for that white rock there and straight up. According to the GPS, I'm still on the track, which is surprising. There's not much to follow. Just crossing a line of fence posts. There's a bit of a bog there, so I'm going to try and go work my way through here and up to that white rock. That peat bog is not bad actually. Surprising, got through it without getting wet. Just continue to make your way up to the ridgeline, turn left. Nice easy walk to the top. Just going to stop here for something to eat. It's 1.5 kilometers distance to the summit and 300 meters in altitude. There's one of the walkers from earlier. I think they took a more direct cut across the Beinn Teallach. But you can see it's quite steep coming down there, hence going away to the left hand side as you look back and then coming down. Just under 4 hours into the walk. Just got to continue on about 150 metres, get onto the ridgeline proper and then turn left and just go all the way up. So far this path is nice, reasonably steep, but easy enough to climb up, getting good altitude again. A little bit wet occasionally, but nothing bad. Just keep falling up, it makes its way up through the rocks here. Summit straight ahead. Not far to go now. It's a nice part of the walk, this. There's nothing exposed as long as you keep to the main path. There are big drops just over the cliff there, so I'm keeping away from the edge. Almost at the summit. There's a cairn here, but when I checked the map, the actual summit is the one over there. At the summit of Beinn Teallach. That's taken 5 hours including stops. The summit of Chaorainn is clear now. From the summit you're going to head pretty much directly south. You actually start a little bit to the right of where we're looking just now, then you bend to the left and then you bend back to the right just as you make your way down here. When you've got visibility like today, just head straight for the loch that you can see ahead. Aim for that, you can't go far wrong. You'll come down, once you're on the edge of the ridge on the left hand side, you just walk down the ridge. Nice easy descent. The bottom of this ridge is a really wet, boggy section. It's really bad. Hence the reason for doing it in this direction. If you get wet, you've not got too far to walk back to the car. From here you're going to continue about 500 metres towards the loch across there. So roughly where that guy is, I don't know if you can make him out. But then at that point you want to bend to the left and go down to the left hand side of the woods that are down there. So that that section of wood in the middle of the frame, you want to go to the left hand side of that. So straight ahead for a bit and then cut down to the left. There's a little cairn here, still about 100 metres ahead before we bend off to the left. I've not been able to follow much of a path down here. Seem to be a few tracks going off to the right, but you don't want to go that way. The walker ahead looks like he's on a bit of a muddy track, so I'm just aiming to follow him down there. Just keeping to the left of the woods. You can only just see the tops of the woods just now. This section is very wet. You must have waterproof boots. It's the kind of wet you'd want to have Wellington boots, and it only gets worse. So it's not the best end to the day. I'm heading straight ahead down to the gate you can see in the fence. And even when you get to that gate, there's a path. It's a sort of ATV type track, but it is very wet. And that'll take us back out to the woods where we turned off this morning. In approximately 300 metres, we're going to cross that river there on the left. The path splits here. Map looks like it's the one closest to the river that we follow. So I'm going to go down the one on the left here. You want to cross the river just here. So we're going to cross into a little middle bit, then back across and join the path on the other side. I've not seen much of a path at this point, but you're aiming for that gap in the fence ahead. Once you get there, you'll be back in the path we're on this morning. The last junction for today, just turn to your right here. That's me back at the parking lay-by, 6.5 hours. That's not too bad. You can see way in the distance there's another parking lay-by, so if this one's full then you can park down there. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll show you more in the next one. Bye for now.